as was mentioned, first officiated at this match in 1995. The trigger for that was that Bob Wade had been the arbiter for many years, but that year there was a special event where 10 British champions, of whom Bob was one, each gave 10 boards simultaneous. And so I was asked to step in for that year. Since then I've been the arbiter or the deputy arbiter on 21 occasions. There were 3 of the 24 years when I didn't do it for one reason or another. The arithmetically minded will have worked out that that 21 represents exactly half the occasions that the match has been held on these premises. And a year or so ago it became spoke to the colleagues and said, I think it's somebody else needs to do it for the next 20 odd years, and they immediately said they would like Matthew Carr to take over from me. At last year's event, when very few people knew that I would be stepping down this year, Ray Keane kindly gave out copies of his official biography of Tony Buzan, and I was one of the recipients, but in fact I'd already been given a copy on an earlier occasion. So it was agreed that this copy would become the chief arbiter's copy, to be kept by the chief arbiter for the time. I had little idea that when this presentation came to be made, the subject of the biography would be sitting immediately next to me. Matthew, I would like to invite you to come forward to receive this book. Please don't forget that you have it, because it's the subject is the world expert on memory. Guard it carefully for as long as you fulfil the duties of chief arbiter of this great event, and in the fullness of time hand it over to your successor, please.
Congratulations, what a delight.
Done. I'm filming a video, so we're done.
It's not that interesting, John.
Thank you very much.
Dave, can I carry on talking here?
Yes. Yeah, I haven't stopped.
In that first match, back in 1995, Oxford did better than expected, but Cambridge won 6-2. So that just goes to show that these things go in cycles. And this is my original file of notes of that first match, and there's lots of things about it that I'd forgotten. Firstly, that match victory for Cambridge on that occasion enabled them at that time to tie the series. And in the intervening years, Cambridge moved at one point some distance ahead, but Oxford more recently have been closing the gap, and the score is now a lead of only 4 in Cambridge's favour. This is the invitation to the dinner on that occasion. In those days the match was sponsored by Watson, Farley and Williams, and I had completely forgotten that the dinner was not actually here but at their premises. That's what it says here. The match was here, but the dinner was at their premises.
What year was that?
1995.
It wasn't a good year for dinner.
That match actually took place on the 4th of March 1995, so 23 years ago tomorrow, which I think to some of us only seems like yesterday, but a reality check was that 11 of the 16 players who took part in today's match were not even born then. And of the other 5, I suspect that only 1 will have any memory of that year. Anyway, here are 1 or 2 memories of that time. Here's all these lengthy files of correspondence. They don't look like anything like today's written documents. I think they must have been typed on something called a typewriter. Does anybody remember them? And here's a note, this is from Henry Muckin, and it says at the bottom, fax transmission runs safely through fax machines. Anyone remember a fax machine? But very much to my surprise, because I had completely forgotten, I found I was responsible for one innovation at that match. Because on the 2nd of March 1995, 2 days before the match, I wrote to Henry as follows: I confirm that I have borrowed 10 digital game timers from the BCF and that I shall bring in these along for use in the match. So my first match was the very one in which DCTs were used, and I had completely forgotten. Most of the time since then, everything has gone pretty smoothly at the match. One exception was the 2002 match. Does anybody remember what happened in 2002? If I look at the trophy, does that give anybody a clue as to what happened in 2002?
Left on the train.
Yeah. Absolutely right.
It was a drawn match.
Yeah, no, that's relevant to the story. Because
Cambridge
Tony
League trophy on the train.
Tony sent his driver to get
as quite rightly, what actually happened was that one of the Cambridge players missed the train. The Cambridge captain stayed behind to bring his player to London on the next train. That meant, in the absence of the captain, that there was nobody with responsibility for the trophy, so the remaining Cambridge players got off the train at Liverpool Street, leaving the trophy on the luggage rack. It was approximately an hour into the match that the trophy was safely located. I think Robert Matthews will remind me, the police initially said they couldn't help him with this lost trophy because no crime had been committed. So Robert hastily said, actually it had been stolen.
I phoned British Rail, and of course you speak to lost property because it's lost property, and you speak to a very nice policeman who's probably sitting there with his feet up on the desk and say, we've lost this wonderful cup on the train. He says, I'm sorry, it's nothing to do with me, you'll have to wait till it's found. I said, sorry, did I say lost? I mean stolen. Oh, right, sir, straight away. The forces leapt into search mode. Of course, by that train, the train had left, which station you come down to from Cambridge? I don't know which station. Well,
it was Liverpool Street.
Liverpool Street, anyway, wherever it was. And of course they found out then the train actually was on the way to Diss, a completely different place from where it had come from, and eventually the cup was actually located, I think, right up on the Norfolk coast, somewhere like Lowestoft or somewhere, and I think it was Tony Bazan's driver had to drive all the way up the M11 and up somewhere else to go and pick it up.
There were engineering works, and by the time we had no trains, so Tony's driver had to drive all the way
up to
and I remember him about halfway through the dinner arriving in this room with the trophy
just before
to
the presentation. Yes, you got the cup back. But luckily it's in a large wooden box, and it looked like nothing, I suppose. It probably looked like British Railway property, otherwise I'm sure it would have disappeared. But anyway, I think we were lucky to get it back. In a way.
The match that year was a draw, which meant that there was a very good excuse not to allow either team to remove it from the premises. And since that time, the decision has been taken that it never leaves these premises, and I don't think it's been out of this building since that day. But that is my most dramatic memory of those of the 24 years. Obviously, various people have come and gone for various reasons since that time. Some of them, sadly, have gone to the Great Chess Club in the Sky during that period. Most recently, of course, much missed colleague Sheldon Marshall. But there is one thing that has been totally unchanging throughout those years. Henry has always been found on the top table. He doesn't look a day older than he did in 1995. But there is one significant difference from the early years and the way things are today. In the early years, by this point in the proceedings, Henry would have been gently puffing away on a rather splendid cigar. Nowadays, health and safety stipulations being what they are, he is only allowed to do that on the outside terrace at the end of the proceedings. And in order that I don't keep Tony away from his cigar for undue period of time, I will conclude my remarks there and hand back to the chairman.
Thank you.